Greetings, everyone. This is The Edge on Poser TV. And today I'm going to switch topics and get off this But Also series. I had an amazing sermon taught to me this past Sunday by a guest speaker at our church. And he spoke on a very familiar topic to all of us, and that topic is pride. Now, his sermon would be impossible to completely recount to you in a short video, so I'm going to take an element out of it that touched me the most and share it with you, see what you guys think. In his notes here it says, humility is the key to a life of great kindness, to a life of great value to God and man. Pride is manifested when we take on jobs or a job reserved for God exclusively. He gave the example when he said that there are jobs that are reserved exclusively for God, and you have to trust Him to do those. And if you don't trust Him that He's going to do those for you, and you instead do it yourself, then that's a really big display of pride. For example, it's God's job to judge. It's God's job to pour out His wrath and get vengeance or justice. So that's kind of an example, and that's the kind of pride we all kind of know of. He goes on to say that we're all real familiar with the kind of pride that, you got this guy or this girl that's really kind of into themselves, that stares in the mirror all day long, and, just is kind of in love with themselves and just tells the whole world about it. I think we all know some people that are like that. Then he talked about a piece of pride that I'd never heard before, and I know I'm guilty to a certain degree of this. He starts off by pointing us to an example in Exodus chapter 4, verse 10, 12, and 13. When God called Moses to deliver 2 million people out of slavery, what response did Moses give? Well, paraphrasing a bit here, he said, "Surely not I, Lord, for I have this weakness, this speech impediment, and who am I to lead 2 million people out of slavery? Pick someone else." Is that a display of humility or pride? I always thought it was a display of humility. But this speaker or teacher went on to say, well, actually, if you think about it, Moses' response is kind of saying to God, hey, I'm smarter than you, and because of that, I'm going to give you some advice. I'm not the guy for the job. Someone else is. God basically wanted to deliver 2 million people, but Moses was so busy thinking about himself that he wasn't willing to let God use him in that fashion, at least not immediately. So the point here is when you and I try to humble ourselves and we get to the point where we're almost just kind of self-loathing and beating ourselves down, the thing that has in common with the other kind of pride that we talked about is, in the other kind of pride, you got a person staring in the mirror, thinking only of themselves in a very boastful way. Well, the other kind of pride is the kind that you're not boasting, but you are still, guess what, focusing on yourself. It says here, superiority and inferiority complexes are both based on pride, because both cause our minds to just be on ourselves. And we aren't free to love others and be kind to others and just, serve their needs. We're constantly just focusing on ourselves. Real humility is not thinking less of ourselves, it is thinking about ourselves less often. I thought that was pretty compelling. Let me go ahead and just read 2 more little blurbs here on his sermon notes, and I'll leave it to you guys to discuss. Look forward to commentary, because to me this is paramount. This really touched me. It was something new and interesting, and it kind of sheds a new light on what being humble really is about. It says here, humility is not debasing ourselves, it's getting our focus off ourselves altogether. Belittling ourselves is not humility, but it's a hidden form of pride. We are still the center of our own attention in these cases. Several of Satan's strategies are attempts to get us to be preoccupied with ourselves. In each case, God gives us instructions on how to correct our focus, and He commands us to do so. And that's where he got into talking about how we are to cast our cares to God. That part of the sermon was every bit as compelling and touching, but I don't want to make this a real long video. I've been making several 10-minute videos lately, and I wanted to try and keep this one shorter. This is The Edge signing off for now, and hoping for some good commentary.